Part 81. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 805. Garen's heart also trembled slightly. Shockwave killing fist, he knew this boxing technique, but he had seen the name of this consciousness fighting technique on the market. Every move and every blow would naturally bring out a powerful consciousness shock effect, even if the consciousness and her people who are close to you will also be directly disturbed by this shock and slow down their reaction speed. Unless you have practiced corresponding strengthening techniques such as stabilizing your consciousness, facing such an opponent, even if your consciousness is stronger than your opponent, you may be beaten by the opponent. The weak defeat the strong. Ha ha ha. Interesting. He was not killed in the first blow. Xylan's voice came from the black mecha on the opposite side. She flew towards her again, and her second-level dodge skills combined with the shock of her consciousness made Garen unable to do anything. Can't aim and shoot. In close combat, the closer you get to your opponent, the more severe the shock will be. Terrible guy. For the first time, Garen felt unsure. He has always used his strength to crush the opponent, but this is the first time that he is at an absolute disadvantage in terms of strength. Watching the other party rush over for the second time. What to do? A series of countermeasures quickly flashed through Garen's mind, but even if his combat experience reached the master level, he was still somewhat incapable of facing this kind of combination of consciousness techniques. All the previous information on Xylan can be discarded. This guy's hidden strength is too amazing. This level is basically not much different from that of Melsith. If Garen was not controlling the mecha, but was facing the duel with his own body, he would have many ways to temporarily stimulate his body's potential to deal with it, but when faced with controlling the mecha, he really had too few options to choose from. You can't be killed here by a kid who is so much younger than you. Garen glanced at Crescent Moon, and a trace of passion that he hadn't felt in many years slowly rose in his heart. Difficult challenges are called dilemmas. It had been too long since he had experienced this feeling. The white mecha he was controlling crouched down suddenly to avoid the spikes from both fists coming from above his head. Then, he kicked up his legs and jumped up. Call. The jet flames are suddenly turned on to the maximum. At this moment, the white mecha actually made such a weird action that was completely incomprehensible. Squat down and push your legs forward and upward. The sharp point at the front of the leg armor stabbed Xylan's cockpit accurately. How is it possible? Xylan's heart skipped a beat. His consciousness is obviously much worse than mine. How could he fight back so smoothly as if he was not affected? She couldn't figure this out at all. Given the gap in consciousness, the opponent should control the mecha to delay for at least 2 seconds. Under such a terrifying delay, even if she wanted to make a reversal, it would be useless. And now the opponent actually avoided the attack and counterattacked. Are you kidding? In the audience, the two people watching the blue Narcissus stood up suddenly. Not only them, but many spectators around them also stood up suddenly. Isn't that guy not affected at all? Impossible. That moment just now was obviously a sign of being affected. Both of them stared at the changes in the field with their mouths open. On the referee's bench suspended in the sky. This is, the red-eyed Medairo suddenly looked stunned. His eyes instantly skipped the grade finals in other small subframes and landed directly on the grade finals of Group C. How can he still do this when his consciousness is suppressed? This guy. What's wrong? The man next to him looked over in confusion, but he happened to miss the key shot on the field. It's nothing. I'll take a look and then talk. Metro also suspected that he was wrong. Clang. The arms and legs of the black and white mecha intersected, making a loud trembling sound. The two were severely shaken by the huge backlash and lost their balance, falling in opposite directions. Garen rolled continuously and quickly stood up again, while the black mecha's island sprayed flames and exploded, levitating directly to regain his balance. Xylan stared at his opponent, with slight beads of sweat on his forehead. Aren't you suppressed? Who knows, Garen's faint voice came from inside the white mecha. He was indeed suppressed, but at that moment, he had actually judged the most likely fighting trajectory and movements of his opponent, and then issued action instructions to the mecha in advance. In other words, as early as the moment Xylan took action, Garen had already judged her front movements. This is the terrifying thing about his master-level martial arts master. He can completely see through his opponent without missing a single trace. Every step the opponent makes is within his calculations and predictions. At the Grandmaster level, above Garen's King of the Century, at this level everyone can clearly see the opponent's various weird moves and attacks, so all the weird moves and tricks are useless. What really determines the outcome is like the sun, the same unabashed absolute strength competition. The level of the King of the Century is to be able to use boxing and martial arts to achieve conspiracy, so that the opponent can only fight with him if he does not want to fight. No matter at any time and in any situation, he can use his strongest strength. Explodes everywhere to attack the opponent. Therefore, even if there are not many ways to command the mecha like an arm, Garen is still not something that an ordinary junior can defeat. Come again. Xylan didn't believe that the other party could really fight back completely. The black mecha rushed forward again, and the two mechas intertwined with each other's fists and feet, exchanging violent strikes and blocks like real human bodies. The more Xylan fought, the more frightened she became. The white mecha on the opposite side seemed to have countless dense eyes. Any hidden moves she made would be seen through by the opponent in advance. What was even weirder was that she had many opportunities to use her continuous attacks. Killing skills are often used by the opponent, and the battle situation is turned into a real hard fight with a single stroke from the opponent. She felt as if every part of her body was being seen through by the other party. The horror of having all her secrets seen through by the other party made her unconsciously slow down in her reactions, and she began to shrink back from taking action. This guy, Xylan's body was sweating more and more. My consciousness is obviously suppressed. How is that possible? How is it possible that he can still move like this? She clearly felt that her opponent's consciousness was being suppressed by her. Suddenly he hesitated in a movement and failed to deliver it in time. Xylan suddenly felt the mecha's legs sinking. An alarm of circuit damage suddenly sounded. The damaged module display on the leg lights up red. At this moment, Xylan suddenly saw a huge fist from the opposite side slamming towards him. She actually fell into the final desperate situation due to a single oversight. An emotion of disbelief suddenly welled up in her heart. I am Xylan. I am undefeated. She looked at the fist approaching quickly in front of her, and a look of madness suddenly appeared in her eyes. Go to hell. A spike of consciousness suddenly stabbed out. Invisible needle. Garen's fist hit the opponent's cockpit hard, and at the same time, he instantly felt a sharp and powerful consciousness penetrate the mecha armor and stab his chest. Consciousness attack. He instantly realized that his opponent was trying his best. Unable to dodge or block, Garen could only follow the prepared plan and quickly gather all his consciousness into a ball to accurately face the opponent's spikes. If this pure concentrated attack of cellular consciousness cannot be blocked, it will directly destroy the cellular consciousness. All parts attacked will instantly become necrotic and lose their vitality, which is equivalent to a frontal physical attack. Boom. There seemed to be a loud noise in his mind in an instant, and a sharp pain spread directly from his chest to his whole body. Even Garen was caught off guard and let out a muffled groan, and his face suddenly turned pale. His newly upgraded consciousness was almost completely shattered at this moment, and he directly degenerated into an ordinary person. At the same time, in the middle of his chest and stomach, a little black spot first appeared on the skin under his clothes, and then spread quickly, like ink dripping into clear water. The black spot spread directly to the size of a fist, and all the parts of the skin that turned black immediately turned into black spots. It was as dry as the bark of a tree, without any luster. For a moment, the two mechas staggered back, and there was no further movement. Xylan was punched in the cockpit. His eyes, nose, and ears were all bleeding. He was sitting in the cockpit groggy and looked extremely miserable. Garen was hit by the spike of consciousness. His body tissue was necrotic and his spirit was shocked. He was unable to recover for a while and was also seriously injured. The two of them were unable to fight anymore and could only remain in a temporary stalemate. Judging from the situation, both sides lost their ability to fight at the same time, and the game was a draw. The results on the referee's bench came out quickly. Obviously, the referees did not want to see such two equally powerful geniuses suffer serious consequences due to one game, so they directly gave the game judgment results. Draw. Instructor Ham and others were relieved. Neither he nor Fabricera had imagined that Nono Siwa could grow to such a terrifying level in just 1 year. Or to be more specific, his consciousness did not change much, but his powerful fighting ability seemed to have improved a lot after the last injury. Xylan. Drawfey Bailey stared at the two mechas on the field with complicated eyes. He did not expect that Xylan, who was invincible in his eyes, would be defeated by Nono Siwa, whom he always thought was weaker than him. It must be said that this was an unspeakable irony for him who had just been defeated miserably by Xylan. Don't think too much, Nono is still a member of our class no matter what. Teacher Ham comforted him by patting him on the shoulder. I understand. Faye Bailey nodded and took a deep breath. On the playing field, several ambulances and inspection vehicles quickly drove in to detect the threat level of the mecha and the casualties. Garen was lifted out of the mecha. A piece of black necrotic skin on his chest made the medical staff tremble. This kind of injury caused by a pure attack of consciousness is the most difficult to treat. Surprisingly, Garen was still awake. Although he was sweating slightly due to the headache, he was indeed still awake. He turned his head and looked at his opponent Xylan, who was being carried out of the mecha on the opposite side. Xylan was also carried out covered in blood. His body was stiff and he seemed unable to move. He was quickly put on an oxygen mask and was being carried into the ambulance. The two were quickly put side by side, and the ambulance closed the door and drove out of the arena with a whine of sirens, leaving the inspection vehicle and maintenance trailer to tow the mecha away. This is the first time Garen has suffered such serious injuries since he was possessed. The necrotic tissue in the pit of the heart is nothing. The most troublesome thing is that there is still a trace of Xylan's consciousness lingering there like a bug. This trace of consciousness is the remaining consciousness of Xylan after defeating his own gathered consciousness. The power that came down was precisely this part of the power that made it impossible for his own self-healing system to start recovering from the injury on its own. There are 2 nurses and doctors beside a hospital bed to monitor the patient at all times. You are amazing, Xylan spoke directly while wearing an oxygen mask. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 806. Are you praising yourself? You are the one who hurt me so badly. Garen's face was calm, but his body was trembling slightly on purpose to show that he was trying to endure the severe pain. In fact, such pain was a common occurrence for him in the past. If it wasn't for the sake of appearing normal, he could even sit up and move around a little. He could even deal with this injury, but this was completely inconsistent with the performance of a teenager. To be honest, I originally planned to hit the top 3 to enter the elite students. Xylan recalled the feeling just now, as if he had been completely seen through, and he still has lingering fears. That's a coincidence. I had this plan originally. Garen smiled reluctantly and replied. Oh, Xylan turned his head and said, I thought there were many masters like you in the black market. Garen didn't reply. He lay on his back and let the nurse next to him wipe his sweat. If there are really many, then there is no hope for the top 3 I want, Xylan continued. What was the name of your last pure consciousness attack? Garen knew that there was nothing he could do in the competition, but his strength and potential had also been shown. It shouldn't be a big problem to get the attention of Blue Narcissus, so he simply asked about his interest. Content. That's an invisible needle, and I can only use it once. Xylan, facing a pair of people of the same level as him, lost all his previous arrogance and looked very peaceful. Pure consciousness techniques are very difficult. Even I have only achieved consciousness shock and invisible needle, and both of them consume a lot of myself. He paused. On the other hand, you were suppressed by my consciousness. How did you make such a strong counterattack? Garen smiled and felt that Xylan, apart from having a bad mouth, was not a nuisance. He just purely liked the pursuit of power. It's a kind of martial arts instinct. I can predict the trajectory of your attack method. He has nothing to hide. Even if you tell the other party, you can't learn this kind of thing. You can only do it with a lot of martial arts experience and reaching a very high level ability. Otherwise, there are so many martial arts masters in the world of secret martial arts who practice martial arts and secret martial arts, and they all know how powerful this realm is. It would be impossible for only a few centuries of king masters to emerge. Sure enough, Xylan seemed to understand a little bit about this realm. You can brag. Only people at the level of inherited pilots can achieve this level. How old are you? The problem is that your martial arts aren't very good either, Garen asked back. Xylan was also speechless. Indeed, if the opponent is much stronger than himself in martial arts, then such an effect may indeed be achieved. But Garen heard the implication of the other party's words. You mean, there are people who have reached that truly top level? Just kidding, the king of the century is only a few people with billions of talents. How can such a high-level master appear here so easily? Absolutely. Heritage-level mecha masters are all strategic-level masters, and many of these martial arts skills are basic. Xylan answered naturally. Garen thought about it again, and there was indeed no need to be surprised. The king of the century may be able to become the king in the secret martial arts world, but in the entire secret martial arts world, there are no more than a few million people who can practice and come into contact with the secret martial arts. Therefore, the chance of becoming the king of the century is 1 in a million. In this world, directly based on the planet, the population of a planet is no less than several billion. Among them, the training of mecha masters is the mainstream trend. Among the billions of people, at least several thousand are moving towards the goal of mecha masters. 10,000. There are countless students from various academies, large and small, all pursuing the myth of a hero who can defeat thousands of mecha masters. With such a ratio, it is not surprising that there will be some masters at the level of king of the century. Xylan didn't pay attention to Garen's eyes and was still talking to himself. We have such masters at Black Pen Academy. Dean Cruz and Vice Dean Symes are both top masters at this level. Combined with the power of consciousness, such martial arts combat power can almost reach the terrifying level of 1 against 1,000 in the legend. The situation. Xylan's eyes showed strong yearning. Okay, let's not talk about this. I don't know how the next game will be arranged if we draw, Garen asked. There are no arrangements. We can't join the war anymore. Damn it. If I hadn't met you first, I would have killed Kavas directly. Even if we fight Barry head-on, we still don't know who will win and who will lose. Xylan suddenly showed his dismay again. The color of willingness. Save your energy to recuperate. If you don't give in, it won't be over until you come back from a face-to-face challenge, Garen said lazily. Xylan suddenly felt like a deflated rubber ball. He glared at him fiercely and turned his head to rest. Kavas sat in the player box and saw the competition above like his trainer. These two guys. He was sweating slightly on his forehead. If you meet them, are you sure? The teacher asked in a low voice. Kausu wanted to answer yes, but he had his own self-esteem, and such an answer could not change the reality. Not to mention anything else, just the consciousness shock technique can suppress him to death, and he may even be killed in a short time. Prepare for the next one, the teacher sighed. Don't think too much. Since they are all gone, it's your luck. There are only 3 places for the elite. Kavas also breathed a sigh of relief. I see. What he is thinking about now is not anything else, but that Nono Siwa actually has such strong potential and strength, so whether it is worthwhile to continue to have a grudge with the other party, this needs to be carefully considered. Fortunately, he did not directly deal with the other party, but only had the help of his subordinates. When the time came, he could completely push them onto them and get rid of himself. Anyone who faces an opponent that can no longer be easily solved and will become stronger and stronger. Under the conditions of legal restrictions, if anyone has a deep grudge, the first thing they will consider is not to destroy the legal system and kill the opponent, but to kill the opponent. How to mediate this contradiction? Only a fool would do anything wrong in this situation. Kavas is already thinking about how to coax Nono Shiva through, but that guy is from a very poor background, so he probably can get through it with just a small profit, so it shouldn't be a big problem. Garin withdrew from the game, and the situation with Xylan was settled as a draw. Although they could not advance, they both showed extraordinary abilities and potential. The higher UPS will probably pay attention to it. After Teacher Ham, Faye Bailey and others finished dealing with the rankings of the competition, they chased the ambulance straight to the hospital. Mia and Elle also got up and went. On the viewing platform, the two Blue Narcissus spectators also exchanged opinions. Report it truthfully. Anyway, it's up to the person in charge of grade C to decide. I guess I should be able to get treatment at the elite student level. But if you haven't passed, you haven't passed. I guess the other person didn't say any more. Both of them felt sorry for Garin. It's a pity that he obviously has elite level potential. Yes. The game did not stop due to the withdrawal of Garin and Xylan, but continued. After a slight commotion on the referee's bench, there was still a pity that there was no movement, but more attention was paid to the next final. Middle. But the video of the battle between Garin and Xylan has also been circulated. The reputation of the two geniuses is getting louder and louder. Whether it is Garin or Xylan, their records have shown this. Although both men lost the ability to continue competing due to severe injuries, the video of their last battle also left a deep impression on everyone. After Melsith and Barikaus were bound to enter the elite inner courtyard, Nonoshiva and Xylan also became the strongest leaders in the minds of all subsequent C-grade students. Especially for middle-level people like Faye Bailey, who only have an upper-level consciousness level. There is a big gap between their comprehensive strength and Xylan's level -3 comprehensive strength. They are also the class that knows the difference between the two best, and for Nono, who was able to lose both sides with Xylan, thought of his previous unbeatable record and naturally upgraded him to the same level of strength that was close to the third-level comprehensive test. No one would have thought that a master like Nono Siwa could only have consciousness below the first level until now. If Xylan had used pure consciousness techniques from the beginning, it is estimated that Garin would not be able to achieve this result, and would probably be uninjured. Get rid of it? At the same time, while most of the attention in the Black Disk territory was focused on the college ranking match, bursts of radiation fluctuations were faintly heard in the southwestern and outer areas of the Black Disk territory. Southwest of Black Pan Domain. In the blue sky, there are no clouds, a pure blue. Hiss. Suddenly, a pitch-black twisted sphere flashed out of thin air in the air, with black arcs surrounding the sphere and a crackling sound. The entire sphere was only the size of a football at first, and then expanded rapidly, getting bigger and bigger. Bang! In an uproar, the entire sphere exploded, and a black and red mecha with scars all over its body appeared inside. The mecha was in the shape of a human, with half of its head cut off by a sharp weapon, and its right arm and leg seemed to be made of rough white plaster. After repairing it, he held a very long black sickle in his hand, but the blade was full of chips and the blade was full of pits and dents, which seemed to be caused by blocking some attack. As soon as the black and red mecha appeared, it fell straight down, with red flames spurting out intermittently behind it, but it could only barely slow down the speed of its fall. "I'm not willing to give in," a hoarse roar of pain came from inside the mecha. Boom! The entire mecha crashed onto a hard stone cliff and exploded, turning into countless fragments. The yellow-red flames turned into two overlapping rings of light, cutting in all directions until they swept hundreds of meters before slowly fading and disappearing. Smooth cuts slowly appeared in all the places cut by the two halos of yellow and red. The hard gray-white stone cliff also slowly slid down, and a large piece of rock at the head of the cliff was cut directly by the halo. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 807. At this moment, a black arc sphere appeared in the sky again. After the sphere exploded, a white and red humanoid mecha appeared inside. The mecha is more than 10 meters tall, slender, and delicate. What is surprising is its arms. One arm is connected to a snow-white alloy knife that is as straight as a paper knife. The other arm has no palm structure and is directly a round barrel. There are many dark red symbols and patterns engraved around the muzzle, which looks a bit simple and gorgeous. The most conspicuous thing about the mecha is that all the gaps in his upper body, chest, and shoulders are constantly flashing with emerald green fluorescence, as if emerald green fluorescent liquid is flowing in these gaps. These green light gaps naturally converge into one character, Light. You dare to jump after being severely injured. You don't know whether to live or die, a cold voice came from inside the mecha. In an instant, several more white humanoid mechas jumped and appeared behind this mecha. They are all white and red, but not as exquisite as the leader's mecha. There is only a diamond-shaped green crystal stone inlaid on the chest as a symbol. "Go down and take the parts away," the lead mecha ordered calmly. Clear. 3 of the 5 newly appeared mechas swooped down and flew down, while the other 2 patrolled in a circular pattern on both sides in tacit agreement. "You can be proud of your ability to let me, the Great Light Mecha, personally deploy," the lead mecha said proudly, looking at the exploded wreckage below. The results of the search were quickly fed back and integrated into the lead mecha's quantum computer, and a dark fragment of a part appeared on the computer screen. "What's the next target?" Inside the Great Light Mecha, a young man wearing a white mask quickly opened the email he had just received. After quickly scanning the information above, the man's sharp eyes narrowed slightly with a hint of surprise. "Is there a fragment of the black disk domain here? I happen to be here, so I just collected it on the way." South of Hippan City. Inside the pastry shop on the corner of the street with the sign "Everything Pastry." The room is lit with yellowish lights, creating a warm environment even during the day. Climisa was lying lazily on the chair, half asleep like a puddle of mud. His saliva flowed slightly from the corner of his mouth, flowed through his chin, and hung from the edge of his face, pulling out a crystalline filament. "Call." A gust of breeze blew by, and the strands of saliva were directly bent, and gently floated to Clint's collar, wetting a small dark stain. "Suck." Clint took a deep sip, tilted his head and continued to sleep. "Oh my God. Oh my God, my God, my God. Damn it. It's over. It's over now." Suddenly, a violent roar vibrated by his ears, and the huge sound shook his whole body. "Damn," I woke up suddenly. Clint's eyes were blank, he regained consciousness a little, and finally covered his ears and started to cry. "What are you doing?" "My ears." "Ears." "You're done," Chi-Yu replied briefly. "Why," Clint said helplessly, "why am I finished?" "You are dead." "Why?" Clint's eyes were blank. "You are an idiot. You are dead. You are definitely dead this time," Chi-Yu continued to roar loudly. "Oh my God," Clint started to cry, holding his head. More than 10 minutes later, suppressing the violent roaring in his ears, Clint finally found a chance to go to the toilet after dealing with several guests. Uncle Chayu, tell me what happened this time. I can't stand it anymore, I really can't stand it anymore. If this continues, I will definitely have a neurasthenia, really. He pulled down his pants and sat on the toilet, breathing a sigh of relief. I'm sorry to tell you, Chiyu replied fiercely, we were discovered. Discovered? What do you mean? Clint was confused again. There are experts who are searching for my parts and have found the black disk domain, Chayu said seriously, I'm really not joking this time. If the other party finds it, we will all die. I will be formatted, and you will definitely be silenced. Krillin shuddered. No way. Silence. Will this kind of plot in a TV series happen to me? Don't believe it, Chayu said coldly, I'm telling the truth. My body was once called a forbidden mecha by you. It is the most powerful mecha in the starry sky. Even if it is just a single piece, parts are an extremely valuable asset to ordinary people. It is certain that there are experts who collect parts, but what I can't think of is how the other party found my existence. Is it just a coincidence? Forbidden mecha. Clint swallowed hard, feeling as if he had suddenly fallen into an unprecedented pit. Uncle Chayu, are you kidding me? Do you think I'm in the mood to lie to you now? Chayu directly interrupted his last fantasy. We must find a way to avoid the opponent's pursuit. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, this time it was Krillin's turn to hold his head and howl. The most important thing now is to avoid the other party's search. I can feel that my parts are approaching here. Although I don't know if he can pinpoint my position accurately, but just in case, I will switch to another energy-saving state. The maximum it is possible to reduce signal reception. Chayu quickly explained the situation. Next, I may not be able to sense the other party's position. Of course, they may not be able to sense my position. And you don't have to worry for the time being, this is Black Pan City. In the core area of the Black Pan domain, the most elite Mecha Division troops of the Black Pan Academy are stationed. If the other party does not want to make a big fuss, they will never dare to mess around here. So we are still safe. Clint's face turned pale, he was completely frightened. It's safe for now. Now I can only take a gamble. If I disconnect and he can still find us, it really just depends on luck, Chayu explained. Can I throw you away now? Clinton thought of a way. It's too late, Chayu sneered, you have my certification on you. Anyone who has come into contact with me will leave a contaminated aura. This residual radiation aura will be accurately identified by the other party. For such obvious residual clues, absolutely they will all be silenced directly. No, Clint yelled, holding his head again. Fortunately, everyone else had gone out for lunch for the time being, and now he was the only one left in the store to look after the house. Uncle, please forgive me. I'm just an ordinary 16-year-old boy, not the kind of genius harem protagonist in a storybook. Just accept your fate. It's a good choice to just wait for death without working hard. You are a waste anyway, Chayu said coldly, everyone who has contact with you will probably be involved by then. You sister, your parents, your only friends Dubai and Bulan will all be killed. The only mistake they made is that they chose the wrong trash like you as their friend and relative. You must be scaring me. Clint suddenly calmed down, you must be, Uncle Chayu, you always like to scare me. I guess it's normal to make it more realistic this time. Forget it, it's up to you. I'm going to guard shop. Scare you? Are you refusing to accept reality? Chayu was speechless. Sister, they are coming back. I have to get out quickly, or I will get scolded again. Clint seemed to have thought clearly, stood up, and flushed the toilet. Can't stand the reality and think it's a lie, Chayu said no more. He could see from the images transmitted from the parts that the other party was not a sneaky character and would definitely make some big noises. When the time comes, wait until something goes wrong and then let this guy sober up. This is the second time I have been admitted to the hospital in just one semester. Galen was lying in the advanced care unit, chatting casually with Xylan beside him. The two of them were injured on the job this time, and after showing their own potential, the inner hospital recognized their strength, so there was no problem with the medical arrangements. The doctors and nurses had just come in to change the medicine for the two of them, and just went out to let them rest. One leg of Xylan was wrapped in white cloth and placed on a hanger, and his whole body was wrapped like a rice dumpling. Only the eyes, mouth, and nostrils are exposed. This is only the second time Xylan requested to be moved here and merged into one ward. She was very interested in this guy Ñaño. It was undoubtedly a miracle that a genius student from an ordinary family could achieve such strong martial arts ability and even be able to reach a draw with herself who had consciousness skills. I go to the hospital once a week, at least, she replied casually. Every week. Why? Garen was bored anyway, so he might as well just chat with this guy. Sneak attack, challenge, anyway, there will always be injuries in all kinds of troubles, big or small, varying in severity, and you will end up in the hospital before you know it, Xylan said without caring. She looked at Garen. Only his chest was bandaged and covered with medicine. The rest was no different from an ordinary patient. Even looking at his rosy face, most people couldn't tell that he was injured. You have such a good physique, you deserve to be a fighter. It's okay. Garen crossed his legs and changed his position so that he could lie down more comfortably. By the way, why did you move to my ward specifically? No matter how much Xylan doesn't look like a woman, she is still a girl after all, and she is only an 18-year-old girl. If she moves into his ward directly, there will definitely be rumors about the two of them. I feel that none of my personal trainers are as strong as your fighting ability. I want to learn fighting from you, Xylan confessed directly. You don't mind at all if I get hurt? Garen was quite surprised. He didn't expect this guy to have such a big heart. I care a lot, that's why I want to learn basic fighting from you, Xylan replied sincerely. I have to pay for it, Garen frowned. Whatever you ask for. Xylan is very wealthy. Is 10,000 points enough for one day? I train very strictly. Garen really started to think about it. He was short of money now. I'm not afraid of being strict, as long as I keep cutting off my hands and feet, Xylan said cheerfully. Garen was speechless. What kind of training did this guy have before? The scale is too big, it's just life-threatening. By the way, what's going on between you and that guy Faye Bailey? Garen asked directly. He felt that this guy Xylan was actually very innocent. He was just pursuing strength. The reason for fighting that guy Faye Bailey seems completely different. That guy is a waste. He is too weak and has wasted so many resources to make so little progress. I was born stronger than him, so the family chose me as the heir. He was unhappy without his position, and he has always hated me, Xylan, he explained casually. I originally thought he had some motivation and could be a little more presentable, but in the end he was still impure-minded all day long. He was really stupid not to improve himself and gain some business power. Recalling Faye Bailey carefully, Garen could indeed feel that that guy was indeed a bit broad-minded and a bit complicated, and was far less pure than Xylan. If you don't focus on one thing wholeheartedly, how can you possibly surpass a martial arts madman like Xylan? Now he can't even catch up with his tail, which is natural. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 808. This injury will probably take a month and a half to recover from. It's boring to be idle like this. Do you have any suggestions? Xylan hummed casually beside him. Proposal. Garen was about to speak when suddenly the door to the ward was opened, and the teacher Ham and another man with yellow hair and a crew cut walked in. If you're bored, how about going to battle.net, the yellow-haired man said. Coach, are you here? Xylan glanced at the yellow-haired man, with no special expression of respect, just like seeing an ordinary friend. I went to your ward and didn't see you in the ward. I heard the nurse said that you moved here on your own initiative, so I knew you must have come to find the no Siwa player. The yellow-haired man didn't take it seriously. Teacher Ham, on the other hand, walked to Garen's bedside with a slightly anxious look. Behind him came Mia, L, and several other classmates in the class, who were obviously here to see Garen. Teacher Garen tried to stand up, but Teacher Ham firmly pressed him down and immediately lay down again. Have a good rest and don't think too much. Ham patted him on the shoulder. You've done enough, now it's time to rest. If I hadn't met you, I would have been in the top 3, Zylan said with disdain. Galen ignored him and directly asked the teacher about the situation of the next game. Sure enough, not long after they left, the finals also reached the final moment. The top 3 had indeed been competed for. There was no accident. Mercer SI ranked first. With his level 3 skill of double-cutting magnetic lines, he almost instantly killed the second-placed Barry, and then the third-placed Kavis. This guy had self-awareness and did not rashly challenge the first-placed Melsith. So the noun was settled like this. The spectators at the referee's seat decided on the spot to enroll 3 elite students and enter the inner courtyard to choose the direction of their training route. The closing ceremony of the finals is currently being held. Many people have left early, so we will come over to see you first, Mia said with a smile. No, you really stole the show this time. You were able to reach such a height all of a sudden. Big noun, the class depends entirely on you to get into 9th place. We are relieved to see that you are fine, Teacher Ham said with a smile. Mia is right, there are bonuses for the 9th place academy. Your strength was judged by the referee to be equal to the 9th place academy. The 4 are of equal strength, so although there is no treatment for the 4th place, the bonus share will be distributed according to the 4th place, which is good news. How much? Garen immediately became energetic when he heard about the bonus. Now he is very short of money, mainly because the impurity white malachite needed to practice peacock skill is too expensive. This stuff will require more and more as you accumulate it later. If you have to spend so much now, it will probably be even more in the future. If you don't make more money, it won't be enough in the future. Ham and others didn't care. They all knew that Nono's family was not in a good situation, so they should pay attention to the bonus. 80,000, Ham replied with a smile, showing his white teeth. 80,000, which is more than a year's total income for an average family or even more. And now, so much bonus is directly awarded to the 4th place just because of one game. A big stone hit Garen's heart. This money just solved his urgent need. The next 3rd batch of white-colored light stones has been found. But it's not worth using it directly to buy colored light stones. The high-energy fuel powder I extracted can be resold undercover. It just needs a concealed conversion facility. With these 80,000 yuan, I can buy a small laboratory as a cover. It should be possible to launder these fuel powders and sell them directly. Garen had a lot of thoughts going through his mind at this moment. Although he was talking to the teachers Ham and Mia L, he was also responding to the inquiries and comfort from the enthusiastic classmates in the class. But what he was really concerned about at this time was how to clean the high-energy fuel powder in his hands. He had checked the information and found that the high-energy fuel powder he had on the market, even at this unrefined grade, was worth 120,000 universal points per kilogram. Of course, this is the retail price, and it should be cheaper if sold in bulk, but even if it is 100,000 points per kilogram, he can recover the cost instantly. Garen carefully calculated the powder he had absorbed from white malachite from the beginning to now. The first batch was stone powder bought for 1,000 points, and the remaining powder was visually estimated to be at least 2 kilograms. Filling a full bottle, the powder is very dense, heavy, and not light in weight. The second batch was the remaining powder he absorbed this time. It was almost 20 kilograms and he invested more than 10,000 points. In other words, if the purity level can reach the standard, then an investment of 1,000 points can be exchanged for at least 200,000 points. This is a real ratio of 1 to 200. The question now is how to solve this cover problem. With such a high profit, some people will definitely be jealous of the investigation technology. How to cover it? Galen was not familiar with these methods. Teacher Ham and others stayed for a short while and then left, allowing Xylan and Garen to get enough rest. Xylan closed his eyes to rest, while Garen carefully considered the solution in this regard. If nothing else happens, the future financial resources will come from high-energy fuel powder. Hey Xylan, Garen glanced at the green-haired girl next to him. What are you doing? This guy opened his eyes suddenly, giving people the impression of a giant python that had just woken up. A girl could actually give people such a feeling, which was obviously largely due to her practice. The nature of consciousness. Generally speaking, if you get a batch of chemical raw materials of unknown origin, how do you deal with them and convert them into money? Galen asked directly without any cover-up. Anyway, no one else can learn the refining technique, because only those who have the seeds can practice the secret martial arts of life. And apart from him, no one else in this world could have a second cold hell peacock skill seed. Even if this batch of powder is discovered stolen, he can easily refine more powder. Chemical raw materials of unknown origin, Xylan was a little confused. He didn't know why the topic suddenly jumped to this aspect. Then he thought about it. No Siwa must have obtained a batch of these things and wanted to deal with them and exchange them for money. However, he liked Garen and asked him to teach him in the future. You can give it to me directly. If the quantity is not large, I can directly process it into a common point without worrying about subsequent trouble, he said cheerfully. How did you deal with it? Garen continued to ask. I have a friend who specializes in dealing with all kinds of contraband and property of unknown origin. He has many ways to solve it. What? You have some goods to deal with? Xylan looked at Garen in surprise. In his opinion, this guy's background and so on, it's pure and clean, there's nothing unclean about it, yet I'm actually exposed to something like this. What if I can have a long-term source of this kind of unexplained property? Galen asked. In that case, Xylan frowned, I'm not interested in these things, but if you really want to get started in this area, I'll introduce you to someone. He's very familiar with these things, so it's not a problem for you at all. He glanced at Garen and said, you have to make sure that the origin of the goods won't cause any big trouble. No problem, Garen nodded. That's no problem. I'll give you a number and you can contact him directly. I'll say hello to him in advance, Xylan nodded. Galen continued to ask some questions about this aspect. When asked about the expenses of the private laboratory, Xylan suddenly looked surprised. If you go big, this thing can make tens of millions or even hundreds of millions, but if you go small, it can be considered a laboratory even if it has tens of thousands. It all depends on the people. For a laboratory, no matter how good your equipment is, the people, if it doesn't work, there won't be any good results. But if people can do it, even ordinary equipment can produce big results. He suddenly looked up and down at Garen. You guys, didn't you come up with some new technology on your own? These young people who can be called geniuses are not easy to use, especially the children of a big family like Xylan. They are influenced by their ears and eyes, and their mental reactions are very fast. As soon as several clues are connected, they immediately have a guess, and it is the closest to the truth. Speculation. Garen has nothing to hide. It's indeed a new technology. The things it produces are quite valuable, but I guess you don't like it very much. What level? Xylan was slightly interested. Do you want to become a shareholder? Galen laughed. You solve the channel problem, and I'll give you 10% of the shares. It's a free gift. It's fine at ordinary times. The main thing is to help out at critical times. Xylan looked him up and down seriously. Okay, This is naked bribery to build relationships. Galen was very calm. He knew that it would be very troublesome for him to be alone. Such a large flow of funds could not be hidden from the powerful. He, an ordinary person with such a strong extraction technology, was definitely guilty of concealing the treasure. Instead of being later arrested, people are forcing themselves to find trouble, so it is better to build some connections to cover it up from the beginning. In this case, a rich and powerful person like Xylan would be an ideal candidate to win over, and no one would dislike him for having so much money. Even if Xylan doesn't care about this aspect, it will naturally be the same. How much is the income? Xylan lowered his head and thought for a moment, then raised his head and asked. To be honest, I really want to make friends with you, but I'm afraid you'll hide it while teaching me. It should be around 100,000 yuan per month. Galen didn't dare to say more, just a conservative estimate. I can barely get by with over 100,000 points a month. I'll be responsible for this. Xylan thought about it for a moment and nodded. On the other hand, looking at this little income, it is indeed just a small business for him. In his position, the family's own funds alone amount to millions a year. If the total income is over 100,000 galleons a month, the 10% of dry shares allocated to him, which is an income of 10,000 to 20,000, is considered pocket money. The income given to you is over 100,000 yuan. Garen knew she had made a mistake. Xylan was stunned for a moment, staring at Garen in disbelief. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 809. That's right. 10% of the shares. If everything goes well, your income should be around 100,000 points every month, Galen said naturally. Seeing Xylan's expression of disbelief that you were bragging, he sighed speechlessly. Blow, keep blowing. Xylan curled his lips and grabbed a red date from the bedside and threw it into his mouth to chew. Would I lie to you about something like this? Garen continued to speak seriously without smiling. Only I can do this kind of technology, others can't do it, so I'm not afraid to tell you. In fact, even if he calculated it this way, he still said that the share of this business was less, but according to Galen's estimation, at this level the flow of funds is not too much for the powerful children like Xylan, but it is enough to make people excited, and it will not arouse the excitement of higher levels. Under the cover of the disciples at Xylan's level, the danger is the smallest and the safest. You'd better not lie to me. Hearing Jia Lung speak so solemnly, Xylan also suppressed the relief on his face, suppressed the shock in his heart, and said a rare and serious sentence. If you really have such a big profit from this, then I can help you contact a few people. Of course I won't joke about such a big thing. Garen knew that her heart was moved, and nodded solemnly. Xylan thought for a moment and quickly asked for some relevant technical details. Garen is naturally very comfortable in dealing with these. He is a top expert in various fields in the totem world. He can transplant the metamorphosis that absorbs the heart, genes, soul, and will on his own. It is easy to deal with Xylan with some new theories. It couldn't be easier to rename the simple theories of various totem worlds and add a bunch of prefixes and suffixes to give people a high-end and sophisticated feeling. Xylan was so frightened that he was stunned for a moment. After repeated verification, Xylan also gradually learned about Galleon's technology. After confirming that he was not falsely bragging at all, she began to contact friends in her circle. Nono Siwa, a genius future pilot from an ordinary family, already has a promising future as a genius at the Black Disc Academy. It is not uncommon to enter the military and become a school-level student. If there is enough financial and logistical support, he will have to develop in the future. I really can't tell clearly. After all, this is how several military major generals started out. No one can tell whether Nono will become a new general in the future. Unknowingly, Xylan's impression of Garen also changed slightly. A genius with enough potential, plus enough benefits, the combination of the two is enough to make the other party compare with him, at least not as before. Lighter in weight. After making some calls, Xylan put down the terminal slightly tiredly. Fortunately, you have already entered the high-level view of the college. Otherwise, your background is too weak, and you may not be able to protect such a huge benefit. Have you made an appointment? Garen also heard some of what she said just now. Well, when we are discharged from the hospital, we will go over to take a look at your goods. First, check the quality of the goods. If the quality of the fuel powder is really good, nothing will be a problem. Xylan nodded. I contacted a few people, and 2 of them are very interested in this, and will come together when the time comes. There is a guy among them who has a much stronger background than me. You'd better be careful not to offend him, otherwise it will be very troublesome. He warned in advance. I understand. Garen nodded and smiled slightly, knowing that his goal was somewhat hopeful. This Nanosawa's identity can be regarded as a barely equal figure in the other party's heart. Black plate border. Noon, sunny. The continuous green mountains are like a large green blanket, covering the undulating land and spreading to the distant horizon. Whoosh whoosh. Black humanoid mechas with black discs printed on their chests were fighting several white and red mechas at high speed in mid-air over the mountains. Who are you? Don't you know we are the troops stationed at the border of the Black Pan territory? A black mecha yelled. What responded to him was a white steel fork, with 3 tips easily piercing his chest and the cockpit. No, bang. The black mecha turned into a ball of fire and exploded. The white and red mecha suspended not far in front of him retracted the steel fork chain in his hand and laughed twice. Fire! The remaining black mechas set up their dual mobile cannons and fired fiercely at the opponent. The orange-yellow cannonballs formed a chain and streaked across the sky, but they could not touch the edges of these white and red mechas. Too slow, too slow. Ha ha ha, one of the white and red mechas laughed, and easily avoided a bullet chain. With a casual throw of the steel fork, it pierced another black mecha with a bang. Chest. Bang. The red fireball exploded again. The rest of the black mechas were also suppressed by the white and red mechas. It was obvious that neither the pilots nor the mechas were as advanced and powerful as the other. The front line was almost completely collapsed. At this moment, a tall black mecha roared up from below. Dare you invade the border of my Black Pan domain? The Black Pan mecha wearing a horn helmet roared, holding a knife in one hand and a shield in the other, and the white and red mecha flew into the sky at high speed. A white and red mecha was brushed by him on the way. Suddenly, a silver light flashed, and a smooth cross-cutting edge appeared directly in the cockpit of the white and red mecha. After the fine arc spread, it exploded into a fireball with a roar and fell. Intruder! Die! The big man's rough roar came from the horn mecha. The mecha raised its shield and pointed the spike in the middle of the shield at the leading white and red mecha. Finally, something decent has arrived. The white and red mecha let out a hey, then rolled and pounced down, popping out the steel fork in its hand. At the same time, the mecha's mouth turned slightly red and opened its mouth suddenly. Woo! A red beam suddenly shot out from the mouth and rushed towards the horn mecha. What? Shoot it from the mouth. The horn mecha was stunned, but this kind of particle beam cannot break my tower shield. Stupid! To his surprise, the orange particle beam did not hit him at all, but accurately hit the tail of the steel fork that had been shot in advance, causing an explosion suddenly. Coax! As the white gas rolled, the steel fork suddenly accelerated in the explosion, reaching an incredible speed, exceeding the speed of sound, and instantly pierced the edge of the shield. There was a loud clang. The shield in the horn mecha's hand was severely knocked away, and a large piece of armor was wiped off by the steel fork on its right shoulder. The circuit inside was flashing with arcs of electricity. He showed superb driving skills at the critical moment and avoided the steel fork from attacking the vital point in time. But he was also so frightened that he broke into a cold sweat. The roar of the steel fork falling to the ground came from behind. The horn mecha did not dare to underestimate the opponent anymore. It held the knife in both hands and stared at the opponent intently. Oh! You can actually avoid this. Not bad quality. The white and red lead mecha has a large green crystal on its chest, glowing with light green fluorescence, which is different from other ordinary white and red mechas. The sound coming out of the mecha was masked by electronic sounds, but in the tone with no fluctuations, one could still feel the intense teasing of the other party. "Who are you?" the horn mecha shouted. "I am the commander of the 7th Regiment of the Black Pan Territory Border Garrison, Binder. Tell me your name." "Intruder. Your strength is almost at the 4th level, not bad." The white and red mecha sneered, "But that's it? The time has dragged on long enough." Malu suddenly there was a jump next to him, and while the black electric ball flashed, a new green crystal, white and red mecha appeared next to him, and the same electronic sound came from inside. "The team leaders are coming soon, don't delay." "I understand. It's hard to carry out a mission alone, and I can't even vent a little bit." The horn mecha instinctively felt something bad. "There's another one." He pressed the mecha's alarm button fiercely. Woo! 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 The blaring border siren below was fully sounded for the first time in years. "Hurry up!" the green crystal mecha that came later said calmly. "Long-winded." The two mechas suddenly pounced down together. The speed was far faster than the previous movement and exceeded the reaction speed of the 4th level pilot's consciousness. Only a flash of green light could be seen in the sky. Two green lines crisscrossed over the horn mecha that was about to turn around and escape, and then intersected again, revealing its fuselage again. Cokes! The horn mecha exploded immediately, turned into a ball of fire, and fell completely. At the same time, the rest of the black plate mechas were defeated one after another and exploded into balls of fire in the sky. Several white and red mechas put away the remains of their own mechas below and flew directly towards the interior of the black disk domain. Not long after, several mecha shadows flashed across the sky again, all white and red mechas. One of the mechas had green fluorescent lines flowing on its upper body, converging to form a huge light character, which was particularly conspicuous. "Move quickly. After the advance, everyone will move freely and disperse, and finally converge at the target area, Black Pan City. Do you understand?" the green light mecha ordered the other mechas while flying at top speed. "Understood X4. The neat chorus of responses showed the group's strict odds. There are 4 green crystal mechas in the entire team, all of which are white and red mechas with green diamond-shaped crystals inlaid on their chests. If the leader of the horn mecha who died just now saw this scene, he would probably be shocked and overwhelmed. One green crystal mecha represents a high-level mobile phone master close to level 5, and there are actually 4 of them here. This means that there are 4 high-level mobile phone users close to level 5. What's even more terrifying is that the leader is actually the one that looks stronger, is definitely level 5 or above. Suddenly, the green light mecha suddenly looked far to the right. "You came very quickly inside the mecha." The red-haired man wearing a white mask lowered his head slightly, and the mecha also took a defensive posture. "It's the elite of Black Pan Academy, Lord Gugiato." The entire team stopped quickly, and one of the green crystal mechas reported. "They should be elite students stationed in nearby branches. Be careful not to get too hung up on fighting. Each of these opponents has at least level 3 strength," the leader Gugiato said calmly. "The opponent has level 5 instructor level experts. They cannot all be retreated and dispersed within 2 minutes. Yes." Gugiato calmly stared at the blue sky in the distance, where a fiery red humanoid mecha was flying at high speed. There were wings on the back of the mecha, and its diamond-shaped eyes glowed with cold green fluorescence. "Level 5 Master. Flame Caesar." "It's interesting." A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Clang. A straight alloy knife suddenly popped out of his arm. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 810. Time flies. Galen and Xylan lived together in the hospital for more than half a month. After their family and other relatives and friends came to visit, the two of them were discharged safely, and their injuries were almost healed. There was a little incident along the way. The doctors and nurses who treated him were slightly impressed by his physical strength. This was already a physique that a strong athlete could have, but it appeared in an ordinary student. The average physical attributes of more than 1.5 reflect a comprehensive quality that is nearly twice that of the human body. Back at the academy, the finals were over, and the bonuses were paid directly into Galleon's account. Life has returned to the repetitive rhythm of attending classes and training on Battle.net every day, but the two geniuses who emerged in the finals, Xylan and Nono Siwa, managed to maintain their fame and rumors for a little longer. These two guys who appeared out of nowhere almost had a chance to occupy the top 3 positions and unseat Cause. Garen didn't have time to pay attention to these trivial matters. He was busy greeting the people in Xylan's contact to see the goods, and the people from Blue Narcissus also came forward. In the dormitory, Garen stretched out his hand and made a gesture of invitation. Nothing to entertain, just sit down wherever you want. The two people who had just entered looked around his dormitory room. These two people were introduced by Xylan to inspect the goods. For the sake of Xylan's face and the potential for greater benefits, they both came in person and did not let their subordinates come to inspect the goods. Among the two, one is a gentleman in white clothes wearing glasses, and the other is a girl in a red dress with slightly fluffy hair. Classmate Nyanyo, don't waste time, just take out the goods. The man's name is Wei Di, his last name is not mentioned, but he is either rich or noble. At this time, he adjusted his glasses and returned his gaze to Garen. I've already packed the goods, but it's just impossible to put them out directly. I'll show them to you right away. Garen nodded and took out a bottle of packed high-energy fuel powder from the closet in the room. The transparent glass bottle that had just been replaced was filled with light yellow fine powder, some of which was mixed with tiny stone particles. Galen handed the bottle directly to the man and took out another bottle to show to the girl. Since you came here specifically, you should obviously know something about this thing. How is the purity? Garen said with a smile. The two lowered their heads, opened the bottle, poured out a little, and examined it carefully. The woman among them dipped some of it into her mouth and tasted it. It's very correct, but there are also a lot of impurities, the girl whispered. Her name is Vivian China. In addition to her family background, she is also familiar with chemical raw materials. Her family is in the business. 1 kilogram can extract about 600 grams of standard purity. The ratio is very good. I just want to know, what is your specific purchase price? Galen waved his hand, leaning against the closet door, and asked with a smile. Let's not talk about the purchase price. We are more interested in the extraction technology. The girl smiled slightly, picked up a strand of hair and rolled it gently on her fingertips. If you can provide the extraction technology, then I am willing to pay the price. She stretched out 2 fingers and made a fist gesture. 200,000. An ordinary college student may be a bit of a genius, but a genius that has not grown up is meaningless to everyone. The 200,000 was given just for Xylan's sake. How is it? The price is already very high. The woman tossed the bottle and smiled. High? Galen had already anticipated that this kind of problem would arise, and was not angry. The bottle in your hand is worth more than 100,000 yuan. Are you telling me to acquire technology for 200,000 yuan? What if I really transfer this technology? Wouldn't your thoughts be donated directly to the college's senior management? You can also win the attention of the senior management, and maybe you will be continued to be cultivated and valued after entering the elite. The girl's smile slowly turned cold. 200,000 is already a lot. Some things are gone, so it's useless to ask for more money. Are you threatening me? Garen's expression remained unchanged. Just because you have two master bodyguards standing outside the door, he showed a shy smile, like the feeling an ordinary boy would have when he sees a girl he likes. Didn't Xylan tell you what will happen to those who dare to threaten me within 50 meters? He, the girl nodded. You are really good at hitting, but no matter how good you are, some things can kill someone in just a moment. I will kill you first. Before that, Garen narrowed his eyes slightly. You are arrogant. You can try. The atmosphere solidified instantly. A red electronic key appeared in the girl's hand, her thumb pressed on the red button, ready to press it at any time. Garen crossed his arms and looked at the other person quietly, but there was a hint of murderous intent on his body. Killing intent is not tangible, but a manifestation of determination. You can feel it from a person's behavior, look, subtle movements, etc., whether the other person is really determined to kill someone. The real killing intent comes from his mouth. The words spoken are in harmony with the body's instincts, completely showing the intention to kill people. The bioelectric field formed in this way will have an extremely subtle impact on other people. This is the killing intention that ordinary people feel. Others might not be able to tell, but the boy with glasses next to him was sweating a little. He could really tell that Garen was really planning to kill someone if he couldn't make it happen. That kind of killing intent is something he often sees in his master bodyguards. Okay, everyone, please take a step back. Each step back. The boy quickly walked between the two of them to make a draw. In fact, if he really wanted to take action, the school rules and monitoring system of Blackboard Academy were enough to find the location of the action within half a minute. With the cooperation of various experts and talents, he would probably be arrested before even escaping from the school gate. With the strength of Blackpan Academy, it doesn't care whether you are an ordinary student or a child of a powerful person. The patrol team that maintains school rules is led by elites from the inner courtyard. With surveillance everywhere, even if it has some relationship, detain him first and then talk. Once imprisoned, the old antiques in the inner court will not be impressed by mere property and the like. If they say they will be shot, they will really be shot, regardless of their identity. They will be treated equally. Unless they are geniuses in the inner court, they may be given preferential treatment. Garen also saw this clearly, and could not take action in the academy, so he dared to threaten the opponent unscrupulously. Actually, as long as it doesn't require technology, everything is easy. Everyone can make money, right? He smiled and first relaxed the atmosphere. The girl also rolled her eyes and smiled. It was just a joke just now to see how determined you are to keep the technology. You also know that if we cooperate and others come to dig up the technology, if we are not careful, the energy, time and money we have invested will be wasted, so in advance test it. I'm so sorry. She changed the subject. But to be honest, I really have plans to acquire technology. Although it was just a joke, if Nunya-kun you really plan to take action, remember to contact me first. The girl twisted her hair around, leaned forward, and he suddenly came closer to Garen, and the scent of perfume naturally emitted from his body mixed with the virgin body fragrance entered Garen's nose. I will definitely remember you, classmate Vivian. Garen replied without changing his expression. The two of them smiled at each other, without the tense feeling just now. The following are the specific cooperation matters. I have brought a cooperation letter here. You can read it. Garen directly pulled out the white paper information he had prepared in advance from under the desk, divided it into two parts and handed them to the two of them respectively. The two of them took it and looked through it, both showing slight surprise. In this cooperation letter, it is stated that what the two people should pay is the refining, purity and sales channels, and the benefit they get is 10% of the dry red wine for each person. This treatment is not bad, but great. You really dare to be ruthless and spend enough money. Wei Di, a boy with glasses, exclaimed slightly. If according to your calculation, the sales volume in 1 month reaches the expectation, then each of us will have at least more than 100,000 yuan of dry red. A share of it? That's millions a year. And what we want to do can be easily done by anyone. Now there is a demand for high-energy fuel powder everywhere. Vivian, the girl in the red dress, remained calm. It's simple to say, but the sales we are responsible for will definitely be traced to the source of goods, and we will have a lot of trouble to solve. This cooperation letter is not enough. Garen's expression did not change. What does Miss Vivian mean? Without our cover, your goods can't be sold at all. The risk is too great. There are definitely many people who want to reach out. It's too much for you to take 70% by yourself, Vivian said calmly. I am mainly responsible for sales, so the risk is the greatest. Give me an additional 30%. Add 30%. The bespectacled boy's heart skipped a beat. Although he knew a little bit about Vivian's personality and knew that she had always had a big appetite and was used to spending money lavishly in private. She was very short of money, but she wanted 40% of the money for just setting up a sales stall. Dry red income? Even if the most domineering and powerful son directly uses such an excuse, it is too much. A lot of people are still reaching out. The business of only 1 or 2 million a month at most seems okay to them as children, but it is nothing at all in the eyes of the big shots. 30% is not enough. To be honest, Miss Vivian, in addition to your and Zylan's share, the income and taxes paid will also account for 20% according to the proportion, and the remaining 50% is not all mine, he said frankly. Oh, Vivian was stunned. Tell me, who else? Maybe he would be willing to give my Sina family some face, she answered without changing her expression. I donated 30% of it to the public treasury of Blue Narcissus. It will be used as a shared fund for everyone in the association. Galen also said something even more frightening without changing his expression. Blue Narcissus's public treasury. Even Vivian's heart skipped a beat. For the first time, she carefully stared at the boy from an ordinary family in front of her. Is it called Nono Siwa? She recalled the other person's name. What a big spirit. Donating 30% at once is a monthly income of more than 300,000 yuan, all of which is given to Blue Narcissus public funds. As far as she knew, all donations will be displayed on the public display screen of Blue Narcissus, and the money will be spread evenly over the heads of each member. It may not have a big impact on a single person, but there are 2 points. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 811. 1. The power of the Blanding family, the Minister of Finance in Blue Narcissus, originates from the inner court. They are powerful and are standard small money fans. If the money that goes into her pocket is spit out, it will cost her life. Although Vivian Sina family has a vast network of relationships and influence in the Black Pan territory and even several surrounding areas, it is not at the same level as the Blanding family, which is truly at the top. The combined influence of the family companies and other major forces in the Black Disk domain can be divided into 4 levels. Small, medium, large that can affect the economic balance in the region, and heavyweights that truly dominate. Vivian's own Sina family is a large force, and Blanding is a heavy force. All heavy forces have deep-rooted connections with those in power. Second, if you want to take out the money donated to Blue Narcissus, you must also make a public notice on the display screen. This is fund transparency, and the information notification will definitely be sent to every member. According to people's inertia, when it comes to their own welfare and property, the more the better. There will be no problems when it increases, and everyone is happy to see it. But once they hear that their benefits are going to be cut, no one will feel comfortable and will be a little concerned, especially this kind of inexplicable reduction. The income of more than 100,000 points can be divided every month to give each member some small gifts and small income. If Vivian comes in like this and takes away this part of the income, it is with the entire Blue Narcissus. It would be okay if she was a member of the Blue Narcissus, but the problem is that she is a member of the Millennium Tree. Blue Narcissus claims to have 2,000 powerful children, including many princelings and princesses. If these people are dissatisfied, Vivian will instantly give up. What a self-aware person. Everyone understands that only by giving up can you gain something, but there are too few people who can do this. She stared at Garen carefully, as if she wanted to keep him in mind. To be honest, if I were you, I wouldn't be able to do this. She finally put the other party on an equal footing. She vaguely saw in him a kind of grandeur that she had only seen in her father's generation. Money can only eat as much profit as its belly, as long as you are not greedy. Garen smiled. Yeah. Not greedy. Vivian asked herself that she was a smart and courageous person, but she didn't expect to meet a peer who was even more powerful than her. No Siwa, let's proceed according to your cooperation information. Do you need my help to find channels for the first batch of white polished stones? She was really convinced this time. This guy in front of her has entered the vision of the Academy's top management. It also entered the vision of the prince-sealing princesses in Blue Narcissus. I have enough weight to talk to her on an equal footing. No need for help. I already have channels. I'm just selecting the best one. Garen declined. Let's do this. I have some relevant information and contact information here. If you need it, you can call me directly and tell me my name. The other party will definitely give you face. Vivian nodded. As for the transportation team, I won't go overboard. The Xylan family is strong in this aspect. The cooperation went well when Wei Di, the boy with glasses, saw that the atmosphere had eased. He finally breathed a sigh of relief and stretched out his hand. Garen and Vivian also stretched out their hands, and the three of them gently put them together and patted them, which was regarded as a verbal contract. After discussing the details and specific time of the cooperation, Vivian and Wei Di went out to say goodbye and left slowly with the bodyguards outside the door. After walking hundreds of meters away, Vivian kept walking forward without even seeing her own hover car. If she hadn't been reminded by the bodyguard, she would have walked right past it. Still thinking about No Siwa, Wade saw her thoughts. Yes, Vivian nodded, this person is very powerful. He doesn't look like a teenager. She recalled that No Siwa looked calm from beginning to end, without any trace of emotion or surprise, and those deep blue eyes, it was like a still pool of water, not moving at all, just taking a slight breath of air. The guy felt that the rhythm of the entire conversation was as he expected. He showed his determination, and finally showed his true confidence. With the backing of Blue Narcissus, I always have the courage to face him with both strength and softness. My grandpa's feeling. Stylish. Wade was stunned. No, it's the courage. Vivian shook her head subconsciously. He is not very powerful in terms of means and art of conversation, but he is just the kind of person who moves at the slightest word without slowing down, giving people the impression that things have been decided and cannot be changed by any external force. The feeling, this person is very powerful. Now that I think about it, I am a little afraid of him. Wade looked a little surprised on the side. This was the second time Vivian had said the words very powerful. Apparently No Siwa left a deep impression on him. Seeing Wade's somewhat puzzled expression, Vivian let out a breath, knowing that the other person had not experienced many of these intrigues and was not sensitive enough, so she explained. If you look at just one thing, from beginning to end, it can be said that our goal has not been achieved at all, and we have not really achieved any progress at all. Everything, the information in hand, and the details of the cooperation were all decided by him in advance. In other words, our trip here is equivalent to getting nothing. After saying this, Wei Di was slightly frightened. So, he already knew what the outcome would be before we went. It's not that he knows what the result will be, but that he will only get the result he wants. Vivian's eyes deepened. He is still so young, he is only 18 years old this year. Don't overthink, Vivian, Wade said with a bitter smile. It's not that I think too much, but forget it, Let's not talk about it. Vivian knew that she was relatively precocious, and boys and girls of the same age did not play well with her. She also entered the adult society too early, and Y&D is different. In the dormitory. After Vivian left, Garin closed the door, opened his watch terminal, and looked at the contact list above. What he and Vivian said was not false. It was indeed true. While he was in the hospital, he contacted the people at Blue Narcissus and donated his information and planned income. He was a newcomer there. Before Vivian and the others came, the man from Blue Narcissus came over to verify the samples and took away the cooperation contract with 30% of the profit. Blanding, the finance minister of Blue Narcissus, was very happy. She took the initiative to call him when he was attending a dance, encouraged him, gave him the contact information of the deputy minister, and said she was saying hello to him. The other party will always take care of him. These galleons were all calculated and expected. The only thing he did not expect was that the public display of Blue Narcissus did not show any new welfare income at all. There is no doubt that Blanding took it all by herself. Galen smiled bitterly. But that's fine. Instead of allocating a little bit of it to all members, which is inconspicuous, it's better to concentrate it all on Blanding. The purpose is achieved, and the effect is even better. Blanding's family has great influence in the Black Pan Academy and the entire Black Pan territory. It is one of the two most powerful families in the entire Black Disk domain, and has direct or indirect connections with two of the three great professors in the college. The result of the tribute being monopolized was that Galleon climbed onto a thicker thigh. Forget it, the result is the same anyway. He looked at the contact list. He probably already knows something in his mind. If his income can be realized quickly, then his network will spread quickly and become truly intricate, connecting a large number of powerful forces. He doesn't care much about the income in the first place, as long as the money is enough. Just fine, his monthly income of hundreds of thousands is enough for his various expenses. More importantly, no matter how high energy the fuel powder is, he needs to absorb white malachite before he can extract it. In this way, his most fundamental purpose is at this point, as long as these powerful children want to make money, they will be able to continuously absorb white malachite for free. They will not be noticed because of excessive purchases, nor will they be robbed for selling military high-energy fuel powder. If he wasn't afraid of being suspected, Galen would even have planned to only have 10% of the shares, instead of the current 40%. 30% was given to Blanding, 30% was given to Vivian, Wade, and Xylan respectively, and the remaining 40% was for himself. After thinking about it, Garin touched the soft beard that had begun to grow slightly on his lips. It's still a bit too much, so I can give it away to avoid being remembered. But who should I give it to? As for Blue Narcissus, it is good to have Blanding, who can definitely cover this small business. Then the next step is to find the kind of rich and powerful children who like money, are short of money, or want to start a career on their own. Moreover, it is a bit unstable to only invest in one domain. It is best to build some connections in the Baike Guangxi domain. After thinking about it carefully, Garin didn't have any good candidates, so he could only let it go for the time being. If he succeeds this time, his biggest gain will be endless white malachite and a huge network of contacts. The income of 1 to 2 million a month is just a preliminary estimate. When the cold prison peacock skill develops later, more and more white malachites will be needed, and the benefits will get bigger and bigger. By then, this will be a great benefit to the powerful. The small income of the children will gradually become more and more important, and he, no Siwa, Galen, will also become a key figure valued by all parties because of this skill. As for the risk of being robbed of his technology, by that time, Garin is confident that he has fully grown up, his potential has turned into powerful strength, and he will have enough confidence to be on par with the powerful children. Now this network of relationships will become the protective umbrella above his head. Anyone who dares to touch him will be against everyone in this network of interests. Everyone will think carefully and evaluate the consequences. This is his true purpose. Next, let's see what's going on with Kent. Garen dialed the number of the car owner's uncle Kent. This guy has gone back to rest since he last shipped the white-colored lightstone to him. He is probably already waiting. Gotta be a little anxious. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 812. Black Pan Academy Inner Courtyard. In the inner passage of the huge battleship, in the Silver Square passage, a young man in black with a red disc printed on his back walked slowly in the passage. He was tall and slender, with a calm face, and his shiny black hair was tied into a ponytail. Give people a humane and gentle temperament. After passing the corner, the man walked into a T intersection, and on the right was a dark direction leading to another passage. Ahead is the still long silver passage, with only the electronic lights on the two walls shining. Woo! Suddenly, a silver-white electronic screen hung down from the top of the passage in front of him. The electronic screen opened automatically and split into 3 pieces side by side, like folded paper. One of the 3 screens suddenly flickered, and the middle screen lit up, revealing the face of a beautiful woman with long platinum hair. Black Light 11, please go directly to the conference room. The 3 professors are discussing the latest intelligence information, the beauty whispered to the man. I understand. The man nodded. Please lead the way. I'm not very familiar with the new layout. No problem. The beauty smiled and pressed a few buttons on the console in front of her. Suddenly, the silver metal ground under the man's feet suddenly lifted up into pieces of silver metal plates. These metal plates assembled themselves into a small concave silver suspension car. Lift the man's entire body up. Be careful what you say, my grandpa is in a very bad mood, the white blonde beauty warned in a low voice. I know, the ponytailed man smiled, waved his hand, and was led by the small silver hover car towards the depths of the passage at high speed. After moving quickly for more than half an hour, in the empty and silent battleship passage, a white light shone from the front of the small hover car, illuminating the dark passage. The ponytailed young man looked around at the changes around him. I really don't know what the purpose of building such a big headquarters is. Is it a maze? It's as big as a city. Soon there was an intersection in front of the hover car. He rushed out of one intersection, and at the same time, the same small hover cars rushed out of the other 2 intersections, and they actually had the same people on them. A black-haired woman and a strong man, both wearing the same black uniform with red plates. Polly, long time no see, the young man greeted the big man. Matthew and Ellie, recall the 3 of us at once. What kind of trouble do you have to deal with? It's really rare. The big man had a head full of yellow hair and a yellow mustache on his chin, looking very wild. The black-haired woman's face was silent, and she didn't seem to like talking. Matthew, a young man with a ponytail, laughed twice and waited until the 3 hover cars merged together and entered a large passage directly in front of him before he spoke. I heard there's trouble happening at the border. Did you hear that? No trouble? What trouble? I've been busy on the battle network recently. Han. Polly took out a piece of chocolate from nowhere and threw it into his mouth to chew. It's more troublesome. There are generals stationed at the border and former elite students. We can't handle this. Obviously, this is why we were summoned. Matthew nodded. Okay, no more talking, we'll be here soon. The 3-man hover car quickly entered a circular silver hall. Above the head is a ring of bright yellow light, and the ground is full of dark red crystal lines, like a huge and complete complex circuit. Directly below the bright yellow aperture is a circular area formed by 3 high suspended seats. There is a faint white light barrier surrounding it. Through the barrier, you can vaguely see someone sitting inside. Coming, the old man's voice came from inside the barrier. Everyone, take a seat. The 4 passageways around the hall immediately closed automatically, and thick silver metal walls fell down. Bang! After the wall fell, a layer of rippling silver light appeared on the entire surface of the hall, and it disappeared in a flash. This urgent call for you to come back is mainly to deal with the impact of unknown forces on the border, the old man said in a low voice. Matthew glanced at the 3 suspended seats. The area enclosed by the 3 positions was more than 10 meters in diameter, but it only occupied less than 1/10 of the entire hall. Standing in the central area of the hall, it gives people a deserted and empty feeling. Unknown forces on the border? Do you have the latest information? He calmed down and said. Although I know it's bad behavior to disturb your vacation, the 3 of you are the ones closest to you, the old man breathed out. As soon as he finished speaking, the floor of the entire hall suddenly became brighter, with a slightly dazzling white light, completely covering up the dark red pattern that was like a circuit before. After a slight hiss, the entire ground turned directly into a huge display screen, and a huge mountain and river landscape appeared in front of the 3 of them. Among the rolling green velvet mountains, 2 humanoid mechas, one white and one red, were fighting each other rapidly. Flying gauze bombs and red-line death ray cannons were everywhere, and the huge weapon machete and the jagged wings of the red mecha kept hitting and making harsh friction sounds. Bang! A grenade fell from below, causing a violent explosion and turning a large area within tens of meters into a sea of flames. Matthew recognized the red bi-wing mecha at first sight. It's Lion Zabuk Caesar, a graduate of the previous class. Who can fight with him to this level? That's the phantom dance move, the big man with yellow hair next to him said, stroking his chin and mustache, with a hint of interest in his eyes. I was worried about not being able to find a suitable opponent, and this guy just showed up. How timely. Your mission is to stop this attack mecha that enters our border. They all look like this white and red pattern, the old man's voice came from the barrier. If possible, find out their origins, another old woman's voice came from the light curtain, with a slight worry. I have no problem with killing people, but I'll leave all the troublesome information matters to Ellie. The big man with yellow hair pulled off a piece of his beard, held it in his hand and rubbed it around. No problem, the girl with long black hair finally said. Matthew was speechless, lowered his head and continued to watch the fight between Caesar and the other party. You just called the other party this team. How many people are there specifically? There should be no less than 3 people with such strength. 3? If not, it will be 4 or 5. Now it's enough for me to play with, he the big man with yellow hair chuckled. It seems that they still have the strongest leader. I have sent Metro to go, the old man replied. Huh? Metro? When the 3 of them heard this name, the one who had the biggest reaction was the big man with yellow hair. Don't worry about Shoddy. The opponent is very strong. You may not be able to handle it this time alone, the old man comforted. It's boring. With Metro going, we won't have anything to do. Shoddy, the big man, scratched his hair in distress. Damn it, I might as well go back and play Battle.net. There will be a chance, Matthew whispered as he looked at the fierce battle below. The other party is not an ordinary person. Don't underestimate the enemy. Go ahead, the old man finally ordered. The mission points are 150,000, distributed according to the 3rd level standard. Oh yeah. I like this, Shoddy shouted. Matthew couldn't help but whistle, while Ellie silently lowered her head and just clenched her fists. Coax. In an instant, on the ground screen below, the red flame Caesar finally seized an opportunity and struck a fierce blow with the white and red mecha, hitting the white and red mecha in the middle of the waist. The result turned out to be a loss for both sides. The 2 mechas fell down separately, emitting thick black smoke. This immediately attracted everyone's attention, and the 3 people in the hall looked solemn. What's going on? The last blow was obviously taken by Senior Kaiser, Matthew whispered. This is what I want you to be careful about, the old man whispered. It's best to bring back the remains of their mecha. This is a test for you. If it doesn't work, let the instructors go out. New. This is the first time we meet. My name is Kale, that's Rebrando Bujit Mingsha. This is my full name. As you can see, I am a territorial noble of the Angara Empire. On the Gallon Watch terminal, the screen displayed a curly-haired man wearing khaki gorgeous clothes. The man was wearing a gorgeously decorated skirt and long white socks. His golden curly hair gave people the feeling of a golden retriever. What was even more speechless was that the other person had a disgusting smile on his face that was obviously fake. Such a smile completely ruined his originally handsome face, making him look like a funny comedian clown. This is the first time we meet. I am Nono Siwa, the businessman who has reached a long-term cooperation intention with you this time. Garin also answered in the same tone and style as the other party, with a faint smile. This person is a small nobleman from the territory that Ken finally got in touch with. His territory happens to be the origin of the white-colored lightstone, which is relatively cost-effective in terms of price and transportation costs. He had just carefully learned some information about the other party through Kent, and then dialed the other party's number directly. She originally thought it was an elegant noble similar to the one in the totem world, but she didn't expect it to be this kind of thing. Looking at the other person's outfit, it felt like he was imitating someone's temperament, but it was far from effective. In the end, he turned into this smug look, like a complete clown. Are all the small nobles of the Angara Empire this virtuous? Garin gave him a bad review in his heart. Looking at this look, he knew that the other person was probably a person without self-awareness. The Angara Empire is actually the Aurora territory on the edge of the Black Disk territory. It is named because it is rich in Aurora liquid. Various colored stones are just byproducts of the Aurora liquid edge, just like the ash obtained from burning coal. Because of the cost of refining technology, it is too high, so the usable value inside is very low, so it is sold by ordinary merchants as decorations and gadgets and toys. The Aurora domain still follows the imperial system, which is not a constitutional monarchy, but a true imperial system. The king is the largest noble and has his own independent military power and territory. As for the white-colored lightstone, can your price be lower? After Garin figured out the identity of the other party, he started to talk. The same is true for Kale, that's on the opposite side. This business is different from the past. In 1 month, it is likely to increase the profits of the entire territory by more than 50%. The white-colored lightstones here are small stones that can be seen everywhere on the ground. Everywhere, completely worthless, in his opinion. This money is simply free. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 813. The two people began to talk for a long time about the movement of the price line up and down, listing various reasons and various difficulties of their own, and trying hard to emphasize their own efforts. More than half an hour passed. There was a soft beep on the Galleon Watch terminal, and the first batch of high-energy fuel powder had been sold. There were 10 bottles sold in this batch, each bottle was about 1 kilogram. They were not priced according to the market price, but were found by the people at Blue Narcissus. It was both an inspection and a small batch purchase, and they directly won the galleons and released them. Of the first shipment, the price of high-energy fuel powder at 100,000 points per kilogram was not much different from what he expected. He used hacking techniques to collect price differences from various places on the internet, and made a comprehensive comparison to come up with this price, ensuring that all parties would make a profit without losing too much to himself. Looking at the data displayed on his watch, he saw that out of the total income of 1,400,000 was paid into his account. After taxes, the amount was more than 300,000. The money comes in really fast. With enough common points, Garlean suddenly became more confident. For the first batch of goods, we need 500 yuan. Is there no problem? They must be all the same size as last time, and the quality cannot be too bad. Galen said directly and said 500 yuan. This is just the initial reservation quantity. If we have good cooperation in the future, we may add more. 500 yuan. Kale that swallowed his saliva. At most, he paid some labor fees for this stone. The rest is pure profit. This kind of stone is everywhere here. He is really too poor to open the pot now. He was the one who took the initiative to approach Kend last time. Sure enough, it was different to put down his dignity and take the initiative. According to the previous price, 3 points per dollar, plus labor costs, the total will be 1,500 points. I will give you the round number directly. Galen readily crossed over 1,500 points. This is a preliminary order. If we cooperate well later, we may add a larger amount. This amount of money is nothing to him. He only received more than 300,000 yuan, and more than 1,000 yuan is just drizzle. You are so generous. Kale that was moved very excitedly. He was actually a run-down little noble. The territory inherited from his family was indeed quite broad, but there were not many abundant supplies. That is, this white-colored lightstone was quite good. I can make a little money, but I used to be half dead. One purchase only cost a few dozen yuan, and it would take a long time to sell before someone came to buy a second time. Until now, the only servant left in his family is an old housekeeper, and there is no one left. No one wants to live in a place where birds don't poop for a long time, so much so that when he hires people to pick up stones, he has to go far away. In a small town, the clothes he was wearing were the only ones he could use. They were the family head uniforms passed down from his grandfather. The bitterness of life weighed on him alone for a long time, making him so tired that he couldn't breathe. And now, we finally see a little bit of a turnaround. Mr. Kalesis, I learned about your situation from my assistant Kend. The previous cooperation between us was very successful, and it also laid the foundation for our cooperation again this time. If we can reach a long-term cooperation, I believe it will be very helpful to your development in the empire, Garen said in the terminal. Long-term cooperation. Kale that swallowed. The two discussed the specific transportation precautions again and settled the matter directly. Kale that gave 3 days, and the goods would definitely arrive smoothly within 3 days. Especially after hearing that Garen was a student of Black Pen Academy, he was even more confident in him. Most of the students in Black Pen Academy are either rich or noble, and they don't care about his little more than $1,000. They might have more than $1,000 just for a meal. Such a big benefactor must be caught. The problem of supply was solved. Although it was only a verbal agreement, Jialong was very relieved because the sources of white-colored gemstones were everywhere, but this one was more cost-effective, and the attitude of the collaborators was also very good, making him the best partner. And providing help in times of need is better than adding icing on the cake. It would be even better if we could get a relatively close collaborator and spokesperson in the Aurora domain. After resting in the dormitory, Garen felt a little tired after dealing with so many things in a row. He lay down on the bed and practiced some exercise, but it still had no effect. It seemed that this thing was really not compatible with him. We can only hope that the absorption of white malachite will lead to an increase in consciousness when promoted. Garen lay on his back on the bed and exhaled. Next, try the absorption ability and devour it. He has been in the hospital under physical condition monitoring and has not had the opportunity to use this ability. He is afraid that the hospital staff will discover his secret. Now he returns to the dormitory and naturally does not have to worry so much. How to devour? What can be swallowed to produce an effect? Garen picked up an apple on the table. The bright red apple exuded a faint fragrance, was round, and felt slightly cold in his hand. Swallow. Jialong lifted the apple slightly, and the cold hell peacock kung fu suddenly started operating inside his body. In an instant, countless blue filaments silently penetrated from the palm of his hand, like piercing a balloon, and plunged into the inside of the apple. Garen suddenly felt a cool airflow from the apple and merged into the countless blue networks in his body. The attribute bar in the field of vision blurred slightly, then returned to normal without any change. Obviously an apple is of little help to the body. But there was a feeling of hunger in my stomach. Garen's eyes flickered as he recalled the information contained in the secret martial arts of the next life. He picked up an alloy pen holder from the desk again. The pen holder was all silver and made into the shape of a statue. This was Lars, the greatest physicist of the last century, but now it was in Galen's hands. Gradually it was surrounded by hair-like blue lines, gradually forming a blue cocoon. As time passed, the blue cocoon slowly began to become smaller and thinner. Garen held the blue cocoon and felt a tiny bit of viscous liquid seep into his palm, which was then divided by countless blue threads. The injuries on his body seemed to have recovered a little bit. More than half an hour passed, and the blue cocoon finally stopped shrinking, became smaller, and then became stationary. It's still devouring, but the speed is too slow. Garen frowned. If it is devoured at this speed, it will take at least a few months. The saying that nothing cannot be devoured is probably true, but the speed is not enough. It's the same. With the thought in his mind, he let go of the blue cocoon, revealing the unrecognizable pen holder inside. The entire pen holder seemed to have been melted by the high temperature, turning into a metal object of unknown shape, with an unusually smooth surface. Next, he found plastic, pure copper, pure iron, liquid, cotton wool, and other materials to try. Gradually, a complete test about phagocytosis ability was formed in his mind. The swallowing ability will have different effects on different materials. 99% of the materials should only have the effect of satisfying hunger and recovering injuries, but this is powerful enough. I am currently at the lowest basic level. If you advance to the advanced stage, there should be big changes. As long as you imagine for a moment that the cold hell peacock can swallow everything in an instant to recover its own injuries, you will know how difficult this creature is. Metal can restore injuries, and food can satisfy hunger. Things like cotton wool have no effect. The density is too low and can barely supplement the elements needed for the body's structure. What about high-energy fuel powder? Garen suddenly thought of the product he extracted from white malachite. This thing is a powerful fuel that generates a lot of heat energy when burned. There was still a little powder left in his dormitory, and he quickly found it from the closet. Taking the powder in his hand, Garen activated his devouring ability again. A large number of blue lines came out of the palm of the hand again, like countless tentacles, tightly wrapping the powder. Hiss. Unlike other things, when the high-energy fuel powder is swallowed, it actually makes a noise like burning gunpowder. A clear stream of heat quickly surged into Garen's body. This heat flow had no effect. Instead, after circulating in the body, it quickly condensed into a ball at the front of the stomach, forming something like a ball. Garen stared at this thing in surprise, feeling as if it had turned into a ball of flesh and was beating slightly. He suddenly remembered something. Could this thing be the product of the pollution power born from the cold hell peacock, the seed of distortion? He recalled parts of Twisted Seed. Seed of distortion, the cold hell peacock itself produces extremely powerful ray radiation, which will distort the surrounding biological life forms and pollute them into a weird and unconscious war machine. The cold hell peacock technique imitates this ability and creates this kind of radiation pollution, which can condense the seeds of distortion, quietly sneak into the heart of the enemy and control and mutate them into a powerful and unconscious killing monster. Its physique data and all other attributes will be increased by approximately 1.5 times. Not entirely, this should be a semi-finished product of the Twisted Seed, Garen judged. High-energy fuel powder can actually brew seeds of distortion. This seems normal. The hell peacock is a cold creature and naturally does not have much need for heat energy. Converting heat energy into seeds of distortion can both kill and injure opponents. Remove your own impurities. Perhaps we can find an opportunity to try the effect of the twisted seed. If this thing can be transformed into one that retains self-awareness instead of a killing machine without consciousness, then it can be used to quickly grant subordinates and give them strength. That's the best. Garen's heart moved slightly. Although the twisted seed cannot be controlled even by the cold hell peacock itself, but the high bloodline level will suppress the twisted seed parasite so that it does not dare to attack the cold hell peacock. This thing is also a good way to quickly increase strength. If you can retain your consciousness and control the release and convergence of the seeds of distortion at any time, then this way. Garen's heart was a little moved. The technology of this world is too advanced, and the development of consciousness has made human beings as powerful as gods. Large-scale wars can even directly destroy planets and stars. However, the development of the human body's physical strength itself has not yet reached a very high level. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 814. South of Hippan City. Suburbs. Beside the mighty Yuzai River, in a corner of the river that is rarely visited by people, a black-haired boy who was no more than a teenager was kicking pebbles and wandering slowly along the river. He looked to be only 15 or 16 years old, with a helpless expression on the young man's face. He looked around and saw that there was no one around, and said helplessly, "I said, Uncle Chayu, did you find what you wanted? What's the rush? Don't make any noise," an unhappy voice sounded in his ear. "But we have been wandering around for more than half an hour. What should we do when we go back? It will definitely be late again." The young man became even more helpless and looked at the pastry shop uniform he was still wearing. "Recently, I heard in the news that there are many bad guys around here. The elements are running around, and we will be in trouble if we encounter them. What are you afraid of?" "I'm here." Chiyu became furious. "Stop arguing, I'll kill you if you argue again." "Damn it, you've wiped out everything you sensed just now." The young man shivered and immediately silenced himself. This young man is the younger brother Klin, the manager of Wanchi Pastry House. He is dressed in a white waiter outfit and gives people a nondescript feeling when walking along the river bank. Waves of river water were stirred up by the wind, hitting the concrete river bank hard and causing waves. Suddenly, a strong wind wave was blown up and hit the river bank. Wow! A large amount of water splashed up and splashed all over Klin, and he had no time to react. The clothes on my body were soaked all of a sudden, and I was completely soaked. "Ah! My clothes," he shouted, tearing at the wet clothes on his body with great sadness, and suddenly shivered again when the cold wind blew. "Why am I so unlucky? I told you not to scream. Otherwise I'll beat you up," Chiyu scolded him unceremoniously. The young man had no choice but to look around. Fortunately, no familiar person appeared, otherwise he would be in trouble. "Can't you stand this little trouble? Then you're going to go crazy when that group comes to your door," Chiyu said with a very contemptuous tone. "I'm just an ordinary person. Mecha battles and stuff like that have nothing to do with me. That's what the police should be busy with." The young man Clint squeezed some water from his clothes and felt that he was unlucky today. "Even if you were an ordinary person before, from the moment you picked me up, you were no longer ordinary. Don't you understand this?" Chiyu's tone softened in a rare moment and she said calmly. "But the Hippan City army is very powerful. We don't have to worry about the group of people you mentioned." Klin was helpless. "Do you always like to rely on others so much? Have you always planned to cause trouble to others? Have you never planned to become someone else's real support?" Chiyu asked back. Krillin was silent. He is cowardly and introverted, but that doesn't mean he really doesn't know what's good. He also wants to repay his sister who took care of him, he also wants to find his biological parents, and he also wants to help his best friends. Have you forgotten Dubai? His dream is to become a handsome mecha master. Have you forgotten Burin? His dream is to no longer be a burden to his family and brother, and your sister. His biggest dream is I hope you will become a man who can truly stand up on his own, become independent and become a mature man. You will not be a coward who only hides under the protection of others and shrinks back when encountering any trouble or difficulty. Chayu has never given such a formal lecture before, this is the first time. Clin had nothing to say. He knew the wishes of his relatives and the dreams of his friends, and he really wanted to contribute to their wishes. But wanting to do it and actually starting it are two different things. Tell me, are you such a selfish person? Chayu asked loudly. If your answer is yes, then I will directly change the certifier to avoid wasting time on you. You will be a loser for the rest of your life. Clin lowered his head and continued to be silent. It took a long time before he made any sound. But what the hell? Chi. Suddenly, a blue electric arc lit up on Clin's body, and after a burst of electricity, Clin fell to his knees, with a faint white smoke rising from his body, and his body began to twitch. The pupils of his eyes suddenly shrank and opened wide without even blinking. This is the pain of an abdominal injury. Chayu's voice rang in his ears, aren't you afraid of pain? I'll let you feel it. Hiss. Another burst of electricity sounded, and Clin fell to the ground, his body twitching like a shrimp out of water. This is the pain of a broken limb, feel it? Hiss. It's the pain of gut destruction. Woo, Clin's mouth drooled, dripping on his clothes and the ground. He wanted to close his mouth, but the intense pain in his body made his mind go blank. Click. This is the pain of having your neck broken. Chayu's cold voice came from her ears. Is it enough? Clin could no longer open his mouth to answer. He could only lie on the ground obediently. Sweat seeped out from his whole body, soaking his clothes and leaving a human-shaped watermark on the ground. He felt as if there was something blocked in his throat, preventing him from saying some specific syllables, and could only make unconscious ho-ho sounds. Do you feel it? This is the possible pain of fighting. Chayu sneered. What you are afraid of, are these things. Do you feel it? Clin didn't know what happened. After truly receiving this kind of pain, he suddenly wasn't so scared anymore. Suddenly I felt like, it turns out that this is what I have always been afraid of. What now? Are you still scared? Chayu continued to ask. Clin suddenly felt that the pain in his body disappeared like a tide. He bent his body, knelt down, and then silently stood up from the ground, suddenly feeling like he had been reborn. This is what you have always been afraid of, what you are afraid of. Chayu chuckled, do you have a feeling that it is nothing more than this? Clin wiped the sweat and tears from his face and nodded slightly. It seems a little bit. Damn it, are you an idiot? Don't you know how to resist? What Chayu wanted to see was not this, but Clin's spirit of resistance aroused by such torture to him. A person without blood cannot fight against all kinds of troubles and enemies that may be encountered in the future. He deliberately tortured Clin, on the one hand perhaps to make him no longer fearful, and on the other hand he hoped to arouse his anger and make him resist. I know Uncle Chayu, you are doing it for my own good, Clin replied seriously. You idiot, Chiyu said. Is your mind full of shit? I torture you so much and you don't even get angry? Are you still a man? Shit. Idiot, idiot. Idiot. Forget it, I don't care about you, today's goal is achieved halfway through, next time you encounter a fight or something, you won't be afraid after feeling this kind of feeling and pain, right? Probably. Clin scratched his head, not sure himself. Next time you meet someone who wants to bully you, beat him up, Chiyu said angrily. Why? I don't like fighting, Clin said honestly. Forget it, let's stop talking. I'll get angry when I see you. Chi-Yu became a little angry again. Under Chi-Yu's instructions, Clin continued walking along the river bank honestly. He didn't go far when he was told to stop. It's right here, Chi-Yu said loudly, attention, it's right here. Stay away and be careful. I'm going to take action. What? Clin was too stupid to react. Suddenly, he saw a huge black shadow slowly emerging from the bottom of the river. The black shadow was 2 to 3 meters wide and was quickly rising from the bottom of the river. Wow! In the violent splash, a piece of black metal debris burst through the water, floated up out of thin air, and flew towards Clin. Oh, Clin couldn't help shouting. Oh, your sister, Chi-Yu Huo Deidao said, get out of here, I have to put something away. I'm exhausted. Clin finally came to his senses and ran away to the right. Only then did the huge metal fragments slowly fall to his original position. The fragments were completely black, with a small half of the black plate's mark still remaining on the surface. What is this? Clin walked over and walked around to look at it. The remains of the black plate standard mecha. Uncle, why are you salvaging this? It's all wreckage, is it still useful? It's not because of you. You idiot, Chi-Yu became even more angry. Oh. Chi-Yu's voice was filled with exhaustion. Okay, it's time to go back today. Just stop here. Most people can't move this thing if it's left here. Come back tomorrow. Oh. Fortunately, there is no place to sell scrap metal in the Black Pan territory, otherwise this thing will definitely be taken away. Chi-Yu seemed to be very tired. Let's go back and rest, the progress must be accelerated, otherwise the group will come looking for it. Once you come here, you really won't have the power to resist at all. With the Black Pan Academy here, they will definitely not be able to get through. Don't worry, Sir Clin comforted. Don't worry, sister. You bastard, Chi-Yu was so angry looking at this pig-like teammate. If there were 2 opponents, he would have to fight against 3. Others didn't know how powerful that group was, but some of the information he sent through the parts was very clear. Ordinary members are at the 4th level of consciousness, the stronger level 5, or even that level, and their mecha seem to have something weird. Recall the last sound and image that came back. The Great Light mecha is so damned. If my fuselage hadn't been completely destroyed, how would I have been bullied by little characters like you? What kind of big bright mecha? Clin asked puzzledly. That's the opponent we're about to face, remember this name. Oh, don't worry, the Black Pan army is very powerful. I want to beat you up again. Seeing Clin acting like a grandson, Chi-Yu became even more angry.